the banking crash, and your Social Security checks. I have all the details and what you need to know right here in the video, so let's get right into it. All right, now this is a really good question that was recently brought to my attention by somebody right here in the community who reached out and asked, what is going on with our Social Security checks, with all of these banks that are crashing around us and all of this uncertainty in the banking sector? Is this something we need to be concerned about? That is a really good question and exactly what I want to talk about here in this video, as yes, you are completely correct. There is a lot that's going on right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, and yes, a lot of banks are crashing and burning right now. Let's get into it and talk about what's going on and how this may impact your Social Security checks. However, really quickly before we do, thanks so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe right down below the video, as I'm here for you right by your side each and every day, watching all this new information hitting the wire, doing the research and breaking it all down into these short videos so you can stay posted on what's actually going on and how it may impact you, your money, your benefits, your lifestyle, your bank account, and of course anything popping up right now you can possibly grab and or take advantage of. As we discussed, it is a very busy, confusing, and uncertain time right now. Things are happening quickly right now, and again, I'm watching it all closely and bringing you those updates each and every day right here on the channel. So again, thanks so much for joining me. I truly do appreciate your support. Please subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and let's get into it and talk about this really good question in regards to banks, the banking sector, all the uncertainty, and all of these banks that are crashing in a big way right now, and likely many more to come in the relatively near future. However, how does this translate into your Social Security check, and is it something you really need to be concerned about? All right, so we've got a lot to talk about here in this video, so let me try to talk through this in a series that actually makes sense here. I don't want to drag this on forever and ever, but this is a very weird time right now. In fact, we've been talking about this for a very long time. In fact, if you've been watching the videos here on the channel, I've been saying this for a very long time. Look out, something is coming. We know that a big crash and burn is coming this year in 2023. Did any of us foresee this big old bank crash to start happening? One hit the dust a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden, shortly thereafter, we hit another one, and then across the globe, we got more. I mean, all of a sudden, all it took was one, the domino effect, right? One went down, and all of a sudden, we're looking at nearly 200 more banks right now in the United States that have their fate basically sealed, which is, see ya. They're not coming back, okay? They're pretty much going to crash and burn here at any point. However, something was also announced out of the Federal Reserve as well that I do want to bring to your attention, okay? So let's talk through this one step at a time here. We've got a lot to cover, and again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. First off, let me say this much. If you are a Social Security beneficiary, don't worry about it, okay? This is not going to have any impact on Social Security benefits for the most part, okay? I just want to say that much. So if you are a fixed income beneficiary, first things first, take a huge breath, a sigh of relief here. You're good, okay? This is not going to impact your benefits for the most part. However, let's talk what this actually means in the event that you are a customer at a bank that happens to go bust, okay? Here's what I have to say about this much. Most banks, I should say most legitimate banks anyway, are protected with insurance, like FDIC, right? You've heard of FDIC. Maybe you walk into your local bank and they have the little sign that sits on the counter and says FDIC insured, right? Well, you probably always want to look for that, right? It simply just means in the event that a bank goes bust, they're actually insured with up to $250,000 worth of deposits per account, okay? So basically that means if you have $250,000 or up to that amount in your account, it'll be protected with FDIC insurance, okay? However, if you have $300,000 in your account, it's not all protected. The first $250,000 is, the other $50,000, well, it could potentially be at risk of loss. Well, that's what I want to talk about here in this video, because we actually got an announcement out of the Federal Reserve and out of, kind of the big people out there that are basically backstopping all the bank failures. Let me describe what this means. Basically what it is, it's a bailout, okay? We saw this back in 2008, and we've heard it out of some big names so far over the last couple weeks here who continue to come out and say, we're not going to bail out the banks. But yet they just did it. They just bailed out the banks with taxpayer dollars. Now here's the thing. They continue to tell us, oh, don't worry, it's not going to be on the backs of taxpayers. Oh, really? Then who's paying for it, okay? if here's the thing, it's on the back of taxpayers. Let's just be real for a second, okay? They continue to tell us we're not paying for it as taxpayers, but we are. If we're not, then who is, right? Again, we can talk about all that in a different video, but my point is they're basically bailing out the banks and they're backstopping, okay? So the Federal Reserve basically set up this backstop for banks, okay? So if banks start to fail, they can start drawing on this huge fund that they've set aside with hundreds of billions of dollars, this facility that is set there. So banks can basically draw on this and have access to all this capital to avoid crashing, okay? Well, here's the thing. If all of a sudden we start to see hundreds of banks across the entire country that start to crash and burn, how much money do they really have set aside? How much is too much? As in, at what point do they finally say, okay, enough's enough here. We only have so much money here. We can only do this so much. They can only backstop so much, right? So if this domino continues to go and we see more and more banks start to crash and burn as a result of this, how far are they really going to go, right? They bailed out a couple. They've already set the precedence here saying, hey, don't worry. Hey, banks, take out all the risk you want. Banks, you can do whatever you want. You can make all these bonehead mistakes, and don't worry, we got you backstopped here. Doesn't worry, doesn't matter one bit. You can take all the losses in the world. We'll just back you up and we'll bail you out. No problem at all. I guess what I want to ask, though, is, if we happen to lose money, are they going to backstop us? Nope, they couldn't care less about us, but don't worry, they'll backstop all the banks, right? I don't know, kind of interesting double standard we have going on here, right? But long story short, when it comes down to it, they are backstopping the banks and they're making sure, or they're trying to make sure, in the event that we have a huge surge of all these banks across the country. Like I said, about 200. In fact, according to the latest numbers that I've been seeing, about 194 banks essentially have the same fate as SVB, as in Silicon Valley Bank, which basically went bust, right? We all know that, right? Bankrupt, boom, gone. Just like that. That's how fast things can happen, right? One day they're alive and well, one day all is good, and the next day, see ya, bankrupt, gone, okay? So things happen super fast. That's why you gotta watch for this stuff. But my point is, when it comes down to it, if you have money sitting in a bank, I mean, feel free to rush the banks if you want and get all your money in cash. You can do that. But again, there's probably not a whole lot to worry about. If your bank does happen to go bust, well, here's the thing. You're probably FDIC insured, or maybe they have a different type of insurance, but they're probably going to have some type of insurance if it is a legitimate bank. If you're, dealing with some sketchy guy sitting out there, well, you probably don't want to trust that, okay? Just saying, okay? But if you're dealing with a legitimate bank, they're probably insured, and in the event that it does go bust, provided you have under the threshold of 250 grand in there, you're going to be protected for those deposits. However, they're now talking about bumping that up to significantly more. The $250,000, they're talking about bumping that up to, I've seen numbers all across the board, $1 million, 1.5 million. I've seen it even say unlimited deposits. Okay, that'd be cool. But I mean, there's not that many people out there that have millions and millions of dollars sitting in the bank. If you are one of them, I mean, honestly, congratulations. That's awesome. Really cool. I mean, that's awesome, but there's not that many people that do that, right? So when it comes down to it, long story short, there probably will be many more banks here across the country that will be crashing and burning. Is it something that's going to impact your Social Security check? For the most part, I would say no, it's not going to have any impact on your Social Security check. However, if you do have a bunch of money sitting in a bank, and again, it's most likely insured up to that $250,000 threshold. If you have more than that, you may want to consider moving it around to, make sure that you have necessary amount accounts with less than that in it, okay, or up to that threshold. Now, again, I don't think there's that many people sitting out there with 250 grand sitting in bank accounts. I mean, obviously there's some people, but there's just not that many people sitting out there with that much cash money in the bank. Again, if you are, congratulations, but you might want to protect yourself because technically it's only insured up to the 250. Anything above that is technically not insured. However, let's look at SVB for just a second, Silicon Valley Bank. Here's the thing. They had tons and tons of depositors who had millions and millions and millions of dollars sitting in their accounts well above the $250,000 threshold. And guess what? They got all their money. They got bailed out. They got saved, okay? So technically, Again, just saying technically, not saying that they shouldn't have been, but technically they were not insured for that, okay? Unless they had private insurance. Most people don't. But they got bailed out anyway, okay? So when it comes down to it, the Federal Reserve and the government will come in on their white horses and save the day. For some people, it doesn't mean they're going to do it for everybody. At some point, they will run out of money because if we start to see a major crash across the banking sector, they only have so much money. They can't do this forever with all the banks. But we all know special people get special privileges, right? So again, kind of a double standard that we live by in this country. It's super messed up. It's super screwed up, but that's the system that we live by. And unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with. So anyway, this is what's going on here. Again, for those of you that are living on fixed income benefits, whether it's Social Security, retirement, SSDI, survivors, SSI, VA, RRB, or other low income benefits, the long story short is basically you don't really have a lot to worry about, okay? It's not going to impact your benefit. This doesn't really have anything to do with Social Security, but rather it has to do with basically just banks out there, okay? Your local banks, the small regional banks, the big banks, the publicly traded banks, all those little guys, everybody out there in the banking sector, this is who it pertains to. Yeah. Hope that helps you. Either way, of course, I can always come back and talk about this in greater detail in a separate dedicated video. But again, I've seen a couple questions coming in asking, hey, does this have any impact on my Social Security or anything like that? Again, the answer is no, I wouldn't worry about that. So again, hope that helps you out. Again, super weird time. Kind of interesting how all was fine and dandy. We're all sailing along, skies are blue, all's good. And all of a sudden, one day, things happen and all of a sudden it's chaos now, all of a sudden, right? Kind of weird how that happens, but then again, at the same time, not surprising. We see this stuff happen all the time. And I've been saying, here's the thing. Going forward through the rest of this year, I would not be shocked one bit to see way more of this stuff happening. Not only banks crashing, but a lot more other things happening as well, okay? This year is going to be a very interesting year. We're still relatively early in the year, and we're already off to a pretty interesting start. Let's just say that much, right? Either way, I'm going to continue to keep you posted with all the things that are happening. And again, I want to keep you updated with all this that's happening, as well as how it may impact you, your money, your benefits, your lifestyle, your bank account, and of course, answering your questions that I do see down below in the comment section. Either way, I hope you can trust that I will continue to be here and working in your best interest every single day. I truly want to help you out. There's a lot that's going on right now. And again, I just want to be here as your daily advocate, helping you out, answering the questions, bringing you the updates, and breaking it all down for you in these short videos. So again, thanks for joining me. Truly do appreciate your support. Please subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. We've got to stick together during this time. It is so weird out there right now. I can't even imagine what's going to happen tomorrow. If you can guess it down below in the comment section, I don't know. I'll send you a cookie and maybe a sticker. You know what I mean? Let's be real. It's anybody's guess what's going to happen tomorrow. Nobody knows. I don't know, kind of interesting and kind of scary at the same time, but also kind of fun because who knows? It's anybody's guess. It could be the weirdest thing in the world. I don't know. Anyway, thanks again for joining me. Truly do appreciate it. Please subscribe down below if you haven't done so. Share the video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other thousands of videos here on the channel. Until next time, enjoy your day and catch you again later.